The History of Wars Between France and England, a Tale of Rivalry and Resilience. Welcome, history enthusiasts, to a riveting exploration of the enduring saga of wars between two formidable nations, France and England. As we journey through the annals of time, we uncover a tapestry woven with conflict, alliance, and the relentless pursuit of power. From the medieval battlefields to the modern-day diplomatic arena, join us as we unravel the intricate web of history that has bound these nations in a dance of rivalry and resilience. The Hundred Years' War, 1337 to 1453. Our odyssey commences amidst the flames of the Hundred Years' War, a protracted conflict that spanned generations and reshaped the contours of medieval Europe. It all began in 1337 when Edward III of England laid claim to the French crown, thus igniting a bitter feud between the Plantagenet kings of England and the Valois monarchs of France. What ensued was a string of blood-soaked battles and strategic maneuvering that would define the fate of these two great nations for decades to come. The Hundred Years' War ebbed and flowed through the centuries, marked by notable clashes that left an indelible mark on both nations. The Battle of Crécy in 1346 saw the English longbowmen decimate the French knights, showcasing the evolving dynamics of warfare. At Poitiers in 1356, the valiant capture of King John II of France by the English further tilted the scales in favor of the Plantagenets. Yet, amidst the chaos and carnage, a beacon of hope emerged in the form of Joan of Arc. A peasant girl turned warrior saint, Joan inspired the French forces and played a pivotal role in the lifting of the siege of Orleans. Her valiant efforts breathed new life into the French cause and sowed the seeds of doubt in the English ranks, leading to a shift in the tides of war. As the war dragged on, the conflict took a toll on both sides, plunging regions into chaos and leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. The crowning of Henry VI of England as King of France and England in 1431 added a layer of complexity to the already intricate tapestry of conflict, sparking further resistance from the French nobility and the common folk alike. Finally, in 1453, after over a century of bloodshed and turmoil, the Hundred Years' War drew to a close with Treaty of Arras and the end of the war with the French emerging victorious. The signing of the Treaty of Arras marked a turning point in the history of the two nations, as the English were gradually ousted from their continental holdings, heralding the dawn of a new era for France and England. The shattering legacy of the Hundred Years' War. As we reflect on the epic saga of the Hundred Years' War, we are reminded of the courage, sacrifice, and resilience displayed by both France and England in the face of adversity. The War of the Roses, 1455 to 1485. Following the conclusion of the Hundred Years' War, internal strife engulfed England in the form of the War of the Roses. The bitter civil war between the rival houses of York and Lancaster not only plunged the English kingdom into turmoil but also drew the attention of France, eager to exploit any weakness to further its own agenda. The War of the Roses stands as a testament to the fragile balance of power and the consequences of internal discord on the international stage. The Wars of the Roses were a complex and tumultuous period in English history that arose from a combination of dynastic rivalries, power struggles, and weak leadership within the ruling Plantagenet dynasty. The conflict was fueled by a lack of clear succession to the English throne, especially following the reign of King Henry VI, who struggled with mental illness. The two main factions, the Lancastrians and the Yorkists, each vied for control and legitimacy, with key figures such as Henry VI, Margaret of Anjou, Richard, Duke of York, Edward IV, and Richard III playing pivotal roles in the conflict. Battles such as the Battle of Towdon in 1461, one of the bloodiest battles in English history, and the Battle of Bosworth Field in 1485 were significant turning points that shifted power between the warring factions. The Wars of the Roses saw shifting allegiances, betrayals, and political intrigue as noble families across England chose sides based on their own ambitions and loyalties. The conflict took a heavy toll on the country, leading to widespread death, destruction, and economic instability. The eventual outcome of the Wars of the Roses was the establishment of the Tudor dynasty under Henry VII, who married Elizabeth of York, uniting the rival houses. Henry VII's reign brought stability to England and marked the end of the Plantagenet era. The Tudor dynasty's rule ushered in a new chapter in English history, characterized by the consolidation of royal power, economic growth, and cultural flourishing during the Renaissance. 16th–18th centuries, as the medieval dust settled, France and England found themselves embroiled in a series of conflicts that spanned the ages, carrying the echoes of past grievances into the realm of colonial ambitions, trade rivalries, and global power struggles. The 16th to 18th centuries bore witness to a tumultuous dance of war and diplomacy, with each nation vying for supremacy on both land and sea. The War of the Spanish Succession, which erupted in 1701, saw France and England locked in a bitter struggle for control over the Spanish throne and its vast empire. What ensued was a protracted conflict that embroiled much of Europe in a complex web of alliances and animosities, further shaping the contours of power on the continent. The Treaty of Utrecht in 1713 marked a critical turning point in the Anglo-French Wars, with England emerging as a dominant naval power and securing lucrative territories in the Americas and beyond. The balance of power had shifted, heralding a new era of colonial competition and global influence, with France and England at the forefront of this dynamic geopolitical landscape. The Seven Years' War, which raged from 1756 to 1763, brought France and England to the brink of all-out conflict once again, as their imperial ambitions clashed in North America, Europe, and beyond. From the wilderness of Canada to the seas of the Caribbean, the two nations sparred for dominance, with battles like Quebec and Minden leaving a lasting imprint on the pages of history. With the treaties of Paris and Versailles in 1763, the Seven Years' War came to a close, reshaping the colonial map and solidifying England's ascendancy as a global power. France, humbled yet resilient, sought to regroup and redefine its position on the international stage, as the specter of further conflicts loomed on the horizon, setting the stage for a new chapter in the saga of Anglo-French relations. Legacy of the Anglo-French Wars. As we navigate the turbulent waters of the Anglo-French Wars, we are reminded of the intricate interplay of power, ambition, and diplomacy that have defined the relationship between these two nations. Napoleonic Wars. 1803 to 1815. The Napoleonic Wars, a series of conflicts that engulfed Europe from 1803 to 1815, were characterized by the struggle for dominance between the French Empire, under the leadership of Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte, and various European powers, including England. The rivalry between these two formidable nations would shape the course of history during this turbulent period. By the early 19th century, England and France were the preeminent powers in Europe, each with its own sphere of influence and strategic interests. The Napoleonic Wars were fueled by a complex mix of political ambitions, territorial disputes, and ideological differences, as well as the personal ambitions of Napoleon to establish French hegemony over the continent. England, a maritime superpower with a long history of naval dominance, viewed France as a direct threat to its interests, particularly its control of trade routes and colonial possessions. The British government, led by Prime Minister William Pitt the Younger, saw Napoleon's aggressive expansionism as a challenge to the established order in Europe. The Royal Navy, with its formidable fleet and experienced sailors, played a crucial role in defending England against French incursions and maintaining control of the seas. Naval battles such as the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805, where Admiral Horatio Nelson's fleet decisively defeated the combined French and Spanish forces, showcased England's naval prowess. On the other side of the English Channel, Napoleon Bonaparte, a military genius and charismatic leader, sought to establish a French empire that would rival the great empires of history. His ambitious campaigns aimed to unify Europe under French control and challenge England's dominance on the seas. Napoleon's military successes on the continent, including the victories at Austerlitz and Jena, posed a direct threat to England's security and economic interests. The French emperor's vision of a united Europe under French leadership clashed with England's traditional role as a maritime power and defender of the balance of power in Europe. The Napoleonic Wars were marked by a series of epic battles and campaigns that pitted England against France in a struggle for supremacy. The Peninsular War, fought in Spain and Portugal from 1808 to 1814, saw British forces, led by the Duke of Wellington, engaging French troops in a protracted conflict that drained French resources and weakened Napoleon's grip on the Iberian Peninsula. The Battle of Waterloo in 1815, where a coalition of European powers, including England, decisively defeated Napoleon's forces, marked the end of the Napoleonic Wars and the downfall of the French emperor. Napoleon's subsequent exile to the remote island of St. Helena symbolized the end of an era and the restoration of a balance of power in Europe. The Napoleonic Wars had far-reaching consequences for Europe and the world, reshaping the political map of the continent and influencing the course of future conflicts. The rivalry between England and France during this period was a struggle for supremacy that tested the limits of military power and diplomatic cunning. The legacy of the Napoleonic Wars, with their epic battles and larger-than-life personalities, continues to resonate in the collective memory of Europe and beyond. The conflict between England and France during this tumultuous period was a clash of titans that left an indelible mark on the history of the 19th century. As the dust settled on the Napoleonic Wars, Europe emerged from the crucible of conflict with a new balance of power and a renewed sense of stability. The rivalry between England and France, which had defined the course of the conflict, would endure in the annals of history as a testament to the enduring struggle for supremacy among nations. In the 19th century, France and England experienced a complex relationship marked by periods of cooperation and conflict. Here is a brief overview of some key events and developments during this time. After the Napoleonic Wars, European powers, including France and England, established the Concert of Europe to maintain peace and stability on the continent. However, tensions between the two countries persisted. In the Crimean War, 1853 to 1856, France and England were allies, fighting against Russia. The war marked a shift in alliances and power dynamics in Europe. Franco-Prussian War, 1870 to 1871. France suffered a humiliating defeat at the hands of Prussia and its allies. The war led to the unification of Germany and the loss of territory for France. Entente Cordiale, 1904. In the early 20th century, France and England signed the Entente Cordiale, a series of agreements that resolved colonial disputes and improved diplomatic relations between the two countries. Overall, the 19th century saw France and England navigating a complex relationship characterized by both cooperation and conflict. Their interactions shaped the political landscape of Europe and set the stage for future developments in the 20th century. In the 20th century, France and England continued to navigate a complex relationship marked by both cooperation and conflict. Here are some key events and developments that shaped their interactions during this period. World War I, 1914 to 1918. France and England were allies in World War I, fighting against the Central Powers, including Germany. The war had a profound impact on both countries and reshaped the political landscape of Europe. Treaty of Versailles, 1919. After winning World War I, France and England, along with other Allied powers, played a key role in negotiating the Treaty of Versailles, which imposed harsh terms on Germany and sought to prevent future conflicts. Interwar period. During the interwar period, France and England faced economic challenges, political instability, and the rise of totalitarian regimes in Europe, such as Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy. World War II, 1939 to 1945. France and England once again found themselves on the same side in World War II, fighting against the Axis powers, led by Germany. The war had devastating consequences for both countries and led to the end of colonial empires, despite once again winning the World War. Post-World War II era. After World War II, France and England, along with other European countries, worked towards rebuilding Europe and establishing institutions such as the European Union to promote peace and cooperation. Cold War. During the Cold War, France and England were part of the Western Bloc, aligned with the United States against the Soviet Union and its allies. They were both members of NATO, a military alliance aimed at countering the threat of communism. European integration. France and England played key roles in the process of European integration, including the establishment of the European Economic Community, EEC, in 1957, which later evolved into the European Union. Overall, the 20th century saw France and England navigating a complex relationship shaped by major global events, alliances, and conflicts. Their interactions influenced the political, economic, and social dynamics of Europe and the world. Conclusion and reflection. As we draw the curtains on our exploration of the history of wars between France and England, we are reminded of the profound complexities and enduring legacies that have shaped the destinies of these nations. From the battlefields of yore to the corridors of diplomacy, the story of France and England is a testament to the relentless march of history, where conflict and camaraderie walk hand in hand, weaving a narrative that transcends time and borders. Thank you for embarking on this enlightening journey through the annals of war and diplomacy between France and England. If you enjoyed this exploration, remember to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating insights into the tapestry of history. Until we meet again to uncover new tales of the past, remember to honor the stories that have shaped our present. Farewell, and may the spirit of history guide your path.